According to the U.S. Census Bureau, it is estimated that roughly 20% of Americans move to a new home each year. What are the chances that your new home houses something seriously terrifying? Let's take a look at these top 5 creepiest things discovered by new homeowners. Number 5. Helen Wenzel of Jefferson, Wisconsin wasn't necessarily a new homeowner, but had lived in her home for nearly 20 years before she decided that some renovations to her century-old foundation needed to be done. She called up a man who began digging with a backhoe. On his second scoop of dirt, a human skull came rolling out of the ground. One would assume that something like this would automatically be the scene of a crime. However, after a brief investigation, it was discovered that the skull was actually remnants of the community's first documented cemetery, which was sold and relocated many years ago. The skull belonged to a male that was buried around the year 1840. Further digging also uncovered the remains of a small child. It was a common practice when relocating cemeteries to just move the headstones and prominent citizens while leaving the rest of the graves behind. So be careful with any new renovations you might have planned, because an 18th century skull or even the remains of a small child might make its way back up to the sunlight. Number 4. In 2009, Ben and Amber Sessions decided to move into a 5-bedroom house in rural Idaho. They had purchased their dream home for a mere $100,000. This may seem like a real good deal, but the residents of Rexburg, Idaho, think otherwise. This specific home is known by local residents as the Snake Pit. Soon after moving in, Ben was finding more than 40 snakes a day in their yard. He was carrying them away by the bucket. As if this wasn't terrifying enough, the Sessions started having sleepless nights, hearing what they thought was the snakes traveling through their walls. This was confirmed when Ben removed a panel out of their siding and dozens of snakes came bursting out. Everything started adding up at that point. Even the water had an onion taste to it, said Ben, which was confirmed after a consult with a herpetologist to be a musk that snakes released when frightened or through defecation. The family lasted 3 months in their new home, and with everything that has been said, I'm surprised they lasted longer than a week. It turns out that the house was built on what is more than likely a snake bin, where large numbers gather to hibernate and breed. This is a buyer beware nation. The real estate agent sold them the house, claiming the snake issue was made up by previous owners. So before purchasing the new dream home of yours, you may want to think twice. It could very well be built on top of Satan's lair. Number 3. Jason and Carrie Brown, along with their 2-year-old daughter, recently moved into their new home in Greenville, South Carolina. The first couple of days were spent fixing the place up, so it wasn't until later that week that Carrie and her uncle started to organize her new home. They were moving around some bookcases in one of the bedrooms when a secret passageway was discovered inside the home. It led to a hidden room. Under any normal circumstances, this would seem like an awesome find. Unfortunately, upon entering the hidden room, Carrie found a note from the previous owner saying, "You found it." The note explained that the house has a serious black mold problem, and mentions that one of his children had gotten really sick from the exposure, unable to hold any nutrition and barely being able to breathe. This, paired with little money, was enough to decide that he couldn't take the matter up with the court, and so he moved out, leaving this single note as a warning to any future homeowners. The Browns decided to take this matter very seriously, hiring an environmental engineer who determined the toxicity levels were so high that it permanently canceled their plans to move into the house. The couple ended up suing the broker and Fannie Mae the Home Loan Corporation, claiming they knew about the black mold and decided to not say anything. Ultimately, Fannie Mae agreed to buying the home back for the selling price and was dropped from the lawsuit. So as cool as finding a secret passageway to a hidden room may be, make sure the hidden room isn't filled with something deadly first. Number 2. Nothing good can ever come from something that starts oozing from your walls. Debbie Hill had just moved into her new home in Colorado when on a hot summer's day, she noticed something brown and sticky was running down the walls of her house. She had no clue what the mysterious liquid was, so she called a repairman. He discovered what she initially suspected. The walls were seeping honey, but not just any honey, but according to Miss Hill, was the best honey she had ever tasted in her life. The repairman reported that there were at least 50 to 60,000 bees in a colony within the walls of her home. When the cool temperatures passed and the summer heat rolled in, it all started to melt and seep from every crack and every crevice in her home. Quite a bit of cleaning had to be done, as a sticky substance like honey is a huge attraction for a swarm of any bugs within a 50-mile radius. Miss Hill ended up having to tear down every wall within the home and rebuild them one by one. The cost was a new homeowner's nightmare. The local news outlet tried to help out by putting out a collection for Hill. So perhaps, honey is the best thing that could possibly be oozing out of your walls as a new homeowner, and not some kind of household demonic possession or Ghostbusters ectoplasm. Number 1. As mentioned previously, it's pretty terrifying to find out that your home was an old forgotten burial ground. There's just one more thing that's even creepier than that. It's walking up in your new home and seeing the previous owner's mummified corpse staring right at you. Unfortunately, this nightmare is all too real for George Gyro, who bought his new seaside house in Roses, Spain. He thought he had gotten a pretty good deal on it too. It was a foreclosure. The previous owner mysteriously disappeared. Turns out, she didn't disappear at all. She was there the whole time. She peacefully passed away in her home, and no one had checked on her, because it was suspected that she just abandoned the home. The bank in Barcelona did no sort of walkthrough after the failed mortgage payments. Neither did the real estate agent who sold the house at the auction it was purchased from. So, there's no way of knowing just how long the corpse was actually there for. The mortgage payments had stopped 6 whole years prior to the time of purchase. The home's proximity to the coast and the salty air is what led to the natural mummification of the previous owner.